Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And now as we enter the end of 2025, we are going to end kind of where we began. Not necessarily with the Snow Queen, but with Frozen. And in this case, we're going to be starting at, in many ways, the beginning of their tale. So we start with the parents. So this is Dangerous Secrets. It's technically part of Disney's Frozen, inspired by Disney's Frozen 2. But it is the story of Iduna and Agnarr, which are Anna and Elsa's parents. So it begins with them on the ship where eventually we know they're going to die. And Iduna is staring out. She knows they're going to a glacier. There's a massive storm going on. And she knows where they're going. They're trying to get to Ottohun, which is what a story her own mother had told her is a place of memories. And to her, it will try to help her find the answers to her daughter's magic. Because she understands that Elsa can't keep repressing her magic. She's like, that was okay for a while, but you can't keep doing this. You gotta learn to control it. And of course, as we know, Elsa's terrified of her magic. And at this point, she's 18. So her and Agnarr eventually go down below to the captain's cabin, which is where they are staying on this ship. They only have a skeleton crew. So, and this is where she tells him the tale. If you remember the beginning of Frozen 2, the film, when their father tells the girls about how he was rescued when the Northumbria attacked, he didn't know who saved him. And this is when Iduna tells him. Well, I don't think she tells him at this point on the ship. He knows by now. But this is where she tells him the full tale. So when she was about 5 years old, she was Northumbria. She was in what they call the Enchanted Forest. Her parents were killed trying to chase away raiders. And she was found by Yolanda's tribe, Yolanda's group, and taken in by them. Because even though they had different individual clans, they were all one people. So that is how she got with them. And then it jumps to when she's 12. And she's playing with Gale, the wind spirit. And she hears Yolanda calling her to come and work on her knitting. And she does not want to again. She's 12. And then she is flying with Gale, again, the wind spirit. And it makes it clear that they know of the spirits. They do not have magic. So they work with the spirits and they work with the land. So she's playing with Gale. And Gale has her up in the air. And she sees a young boy. And she has Gale put her down. She's hiding. She's watching because they are Dalians. Because this is the day. Technically to them it's celebration because of the opening of the dam. So she's watching him. She sees him. He's wandered off and he's found and he's scolded in front of everyone by his father. And then you see Mathis, who talks to him, and it's very obvious that they're very close and that he has there's a father-son relationship between Agnarr and Mathis, and Agnarr is 14 at this point. And Gale takes Iduna back up into the air, and then she hears fighting, and then the forest is on fire. So she, with the help of Gale, she runs and gets the scarf her mother had made her when she was a baby, and the only thing she has of her parents. And she's going to try to get back to her people, but then she sees Agnarr. He's wounded. He's bleeding on a rock. and she has to decide. Does she go back to her people? He's outside I don't know whether he's completely outside the enchanted forest at the time or what, but she has to decide whether to go back to her people or to save him. And she decides to save him. And she protects him, and they get into a wagon. And they're hiding underneath a blanket, and he's bleeding. And they hear people, and he wakes up, he takes her hand, and somehow he has chocolate. Apparently chocolate makes everything better. This is a theme here. And they're taken back to Arendelle. And she wakes up, and he's gone, and she's found, and nobody knows who she is. And this general, and it turns out later he does know who the heck she is. He claims that it's like, you're Iduna, you're the daughter of this couple. I'm sorry your parents are dead. And he sends her, essentially he promises, I'll take care of you. And he takes her off to the orphanage. Then you switch to the point of view of Agnarr. He wakes up, he's injured. He has to talk to his people. This is where you first hear his father's saying, which is conceal, don't feel. It's you have to hide everything in order to be a good king and push it down. But you also hear the refrain of you do the next right thing, which of course is what he got from Mathis, who had got it from his own father. So then you jump a couple of years where Iduna is being brought to the castle to learn by Agnar's tutor. So I think at this point he's 16, and she's 14. And this is the start of their relationship, and they become very, very close friends. And at one point they start going to the mist, which is now covering the enchanted forest. First they start sneaking out, then it jumps. He's 18 now. The general who had kind of taken Iduna in to a point is the Lord Regent. So he's in charge. And they want Agnarr to get married. So at this point, they have to have guards with them rather than sneaking away. And they do this every year. But then you kind of go back and forth where she's an apprentice under this guy who's building windmills. It turns out he's not too much older than her. He proposes. She says no. She realizes she's in love with Agnarr. He's supposed to be meeting with this other princess and this other king. This king has a very, very large army. And then at one point they sneak out together because he doesn't actually want to interact with this princess. He's actually in love with Iduna, but he's being told they cannot marry because she's a commoner, and that's what she thinks as well. That's what they've been told. They sneak out and find the trolls, and they see this woman come to them. She's like, my husband's been killed. I'm pregnant. And she's like, I want you to make me forget him. And basically they do. They make this woman forget her husband. They're like, we can make you forget, but your heart will remember. You'll always know something's there. You just won't remember who the heck he is in your head. And she's like, fine. And so that's what they do. And then these two come to the trolls. And they immediately think they're married. And have children. And Grandpappy's like, oops, sometimes I mistake time. He saw something in the future. And they're like, what? And then he tells them about Agnar's mother. And you learn that she left when he was young. Now, I reread Polar Nights recently. I already did that review earlier in January. And they do mention Agnar's mother, which makes me think that she left not long after that story takes place because her husband's nasty piece of work. And she knew he had framed a young woman for the murder of her sister. So, and that was when he was trying to get money to build the dam. So Agnarr must have been relatively young. He says he was young when his mother basically ran away. And the trolls tell them that she came to them because she knew they could take her memory away. And it's like, he's like, she left her child. She's like, she didn't have a choice. They would have come after and her and possibly started a war with her own people if she had taken him. That's the reason she wanted to forget. But she also asked them to show her the future of her son. And that is what they did. And so that's how Grandpappy had seen in the Northern Lights that Agnarr and Iduna would get married and have a child. And 2 children. So they go back. He has to interact with this princess. Now, in the meantime, there are people being dressed up in masks, kind of like Northumbria, and attacking people. So everybody, and Agnar's father had really drilled it into the people of Arundel's head that magic is evil. And magic is dangerous. And that the Northumbria are our enemies. So he ends up dancing with her, and he likes her enough. She's nice, but he's not in love with her. And he knows that, and he tells her that. And he sees Iduna and goes, she had gotten chocolate on something on her. And he goes to find her. And he finds her up a tree. And he tells her he loves her. And then they are found, and apparently there was some explosion by the dessert table. So, and Iduna disappears again. And he's looking for her. And he runs into the 2 people who helped really raise him. Kai and I think Gerda is the name of them. Strangely enough, these are the names of the original children in the Snow Queen. And they tell him that when they realized that he was falling in love with Iduna, they went through the library and looked for everything. There is no law that he has to marry royalty. There is no law at all. So now he realizes he needs to find Iduna because he wants to marry her. Meanwhile, she's hidden in a secret room in the library, sneaks out, is planning on leave. Sorry about that. The jumping you saw was me hearing my daughter trying to come in. She wanted to show me something, so she wasn't buzzing. Nonetheless, it's 7:30, almost 7:40 at night. But nonetheless, Iduna spots something. And she actually goes and she talks to the trolls, and she learns a little bit more about Agnar's mother and how miserable she was, which is one of the reasons she left. And she sees something. She sees the camp of this king and his entourage. And it looks very similar to what she saw when she was 12. Now I think she's either 16 or 18 at this point. I think it's getting close to time for him to take over. And she sneaks into the camp. And she sees things. And she founds things. And she goes back to the castle. Because she knows they know both it's not the Northumbria and that's doing this. And Agnarr is speaking with people, and she decides to come in, and they're talking about their grievances, and the other king and his guardian, whose name for some reason I cannot remember. I should probably figure that out. I'll pull up this, and yes, I read it in ebook form. Right code here. Let me get through this. And it was, Lord Peterson is the person he's talking to, along with this king whose last name starts with a V. Nonetheless. So they're all in there, and they're talking about their grievances, and this king is egging them on, saying it's got to be the Northumbria, you need a big army. They're now all protected because after this explosion, everything's locked up, And Agnarr is irritated. He's done with this. Now he's already talked to this man's daughter, and it's like, I cannot marry you. I am in love with someone else. You deserve love yourself. You deserve to find someone that you love and that you marry, and I am not that person. And so she was a nice, it's like, he's a nice person. So, but Iduna's there, and when he asks if anybody has proof, and he's like, he silences a bunch of people. It's like, actual proof, not rumor, not ideas, actual proof. And she speaks up, and they try to, Peterson and, what on earth here, it's bugging me now. Let us see. Go down because this is going to be near the end. Let's see. Agnarr. Nope. Oh, I'm tired. Here we go. Nope. All right. Peterson. Let me see what this guy's name is. Let us see. Nicholas. It's King Nicholas. It was wrong. It's his daughter, I think, whose name starts with a V. No, never mind. She starts with an R. Nonetheless, so it's King Nicholas, and he's the one with this giant army. And Iduna says, I've seen the masks and the cape in their camp. I've also seen stuff that would make the bomb. The bomb that would have blown this up. And, of course, they try to stop him in Agnarr. And then his daughter shows up. And she's like, I'm not going to lie to you anymore. I'm not going to lie for you anymore, father. It's like, yes. You didn't, basically, she said to her father, she's like, you didn't trust me to win his heart and to get him to marry you. Instead, you wanted to force him and his people to be afraid so they would marry me in order, he would marry me in order to protect his people. And of course her father's infuriated. She turns to Agnarr. She's like, I'm sorry. And I've met so many nasty princes during my time, my father trying to get me married, that I thought this was the way it was. And then you were nice to me. So it's like, and he's like, yeah. And of course he has her father arrested because, you know, he tried to kill them and he was hurting the people. And he looks at her and it's like, we should meet again and form this time not to form a marriage, but to form an alliance without marriage. And so, and she agrees. And then she leaves because he won't arrest her. It's like, you didn't know. You didn't have a choice here. So then, not there long after, he finds Iduna. He proposes. He's like, there is no law. There is no law. We can get married. And he convinces her to marry him. But at their reception, Peterson comes to her and he says, I know who you are. Because remember, Agnarr doesn't know she's Northumbria. And he's like, you cannot tell him. She's like, he would believe me and he wouldn't be afraid. He's like, you don't know that. And right now the people are terrified. So it would be better if you keep it secret. So she does. And then she gives birth to Elsa. And they present Elsa to everyone. They have a beautiful baby daughter. But then she shows magic. And at first, Agnar's terrified. Iduna's like, yeah, no. She's our child. She is your daughter. Deal with it. And then she tells him, it's like, I'm Northumbria. I think maybe she told him slightly before. And she's like, our daughter is a gift. bringing us together. And then they jump, and you get to the situation of the first film where Elsa's accidentally hurt her sister, and they take away Anna's memories in order to keep her safe, and you go back to the conceal, don't feel. And then they jump again, and Iduna doesn't know quite what to do because she's afraid. She doesn't know how to teach her daughter to control her powers. She's not quite sure what to do at this point, and she keeps trying to figure it out. And she goes back to the lullaby her mother taught her. And she finally, when Elsa's 18, and her daughter will not let her touch her anymore. She doesn't like that Elsa is concealing her powers. She doesn't want her to do this. She doesn't want Anna and Elsa to keep being apart from each other. So this is not their doing. Remember, this is mostly Elsa's doing because she's afraid she's going to hurt her sister. She won't even touch her own mother at this point. And Iduna finally tells Agnarr everything. Tells him, it's like, we need to go to Adahun. We need to go here. I think this is where we're going to find answers to Elsa's magic. And so they basically don't tell anybody, not even the people who were on the ship, the skeleton crew of the ship, until after they leave port. And then you kind of come back to where you were. And she's like, what are they going to do? He's like, their father's like, they have each other. It's like they barely know each other. Like they'll do the right thing. And that is pretty much how it ends. And then of course we know what happens after that. We have the first film. But it's very interesting to see that background, to see how Iduna grew up, how she knew Gale, how she knew the fire spirits, how she knew them, how they didn't have magic, how she accepted Elsa's magic in the beginning and she considered her daughter a gift. And I think part of her knew, and her mother was trying to find the fifth spirit. She didn't realize that her daughter was the embodiment of the fifth spirit. So, again, as you see in the second film, I think a lot of people have talked, it's like, no, her mother didn't do anything wrong. She didn't know what to do. She was hiding who she was because the people were afraid. She didn't want them to be afraid of her. Now, obviously, Agnarr accepted her. They knew the trolls because they knew them before. And then her daughter, Elsa, became so afraid of herself that she wouldn't let her parents near. And her father kept pushing the conceal, don't feel, which is what, and at the end again, Iduna tells her, it's like, this has worked for a while, but you cannot keep doing this. It's gonna burst forth. You gotta figure it out. Her daughter, and of course, Elsa's so convinced in her head that she's dangerous. She's dangerous to everyone. So she's not going to listen to her parents at this point. Again, she's also 18 by this time. And Iduna she does not support Elsa keeping away from her sister. This is not Mother's doing. This is all Elsa. And you don't really get the impression that her father's doing it either. He's just afraid. And again, he grew up being told that magic was dangerous. And why he loves his daughter, he doesn't know what to do either. They're doing the best they can, and they cannot find answers. So when they go to Adahun, that is them trying to find answers. Unfortunately, they die, and kids got to figure it out for themselves. So it's a very enjoyable book. I do recommend it. It's definitely for the older generations, middle school and up, I would say. Because, again, there's a lot of death here, and there's sadness, and it's a complicated story. It's a very good story. I recommend it. Let's see, how long is this? This is over 300 pages. At least my Kindle. All right. Yeah, it's... Sorry, yawning here. It's, yeah, it's about 300 and almost 30 pages long. So it's definitely on the longer side. So I definitely would say late elementary would be the earliest. Again, it's a complicated story. I really do love it, and I have been embracing the Frozen lore a lot. So I will be covering a couple more books here. Just like Polar Nights, which is another book that I recommend, and I was going to do it, then I realized I'd already done it. So you can go back and check out that takes place shortly after Elsa becomes, or Anna becomes queen. So, and you do get a little bit more background on just how nasty their grandfather was. And you see a little bit more of this as well. He was really a nasty piece of work. So if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be working on more stuff involving Frozen and possibly media involving Norway. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. And coming in 2026, we're going to be covering a lot of history with the American Girls, which my daughter's become obsessed with, but there's a lot of American history coming into next year. So like and subscribe and leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.